So good morning. Little technical tap dancing there, but we're good to go now. How is everybody? Very good. My name is Mike Mitchell, and I am the Regional Director for the Southeast for Edmodo. I am based in Atlanta. If you are an Edmodo admin user, you probably get some emails from me every once in a while, so I am fully to blame for those. You can talk to me about that later. And if you like those emails, tell me afterward, and you'll encourage me to send you more. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some new things that Edmodo has kind of percolating and coming in the pipeline. Some of the things I'm going to talk about today are things that are available now. Some of what I'm going to talk about is kind of more of a framework of where we're trying to head with Edmodo. And hopefully that will all become clear as we go through this presentation today. What I'm going to try to do is present, and then I'm going to try to save some time at the end where if you have some questions, I'll try to answer those as best I can. And then obviously if you have more questions after that, you can talk with me or stop by the booth. And we'll try to answer those as well. So just to kind of help me, and I have to walk around, so forgive me. How many of you, well, let's start with the easy stuff first. How many of you are currently using Edmodo? Okay, good. So that would probably make sense that you came to this session. How many of you are an admin level user in Edmodo? Okay. I'm not going to embarrass you, but I could ask how many don't even know what I mean when I say that. But we will. Okay, so within Edmodo, you can obviously sign up as a teacher, right? And then within that, your user account can be designated to have additional management rights where you can do additional things. And that's a really key concept as I talk about what I'm going to talk about today, because some of what I'm going to talk about is additional functionality that we can enable for kind of those admin level users. So I want to make sure people understand that difference. But just to kind of start off, let me, it sounds like a lot of you guys are using Edmodo, but just for maybe people who aren't familiar with us, we are by far the world's largest social learning platform. That's how we tend to describe ourselves, as a social learning platform. Essentially, Edmodo is currently used in every major country around the world right now. Specifically, we're in lots and lots of schools. And if you look specifically here in the US, if you look at the top 100 districts in terms of enrollment size, the top 93 of those we are heavily used in. We are in lots of districts here in Florida and actually all over the Southeast. How many of you are from Florida? And then who are the people who are from elsewhere? Okay, so good, very good. For those elsewhere people, or did you come from someplace cold? So you're like doing the happy dance about the weather? Good, 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 good. Okay, so we used to put up a slide to talk about how many users are on Edmodo, but the challenge is it changes so rapidly we could never keep up. So right now we're somewhere over 50 million users on the platform, and again, that's, you know, it changes almost on a daily basis, but lots and lots of people are using it. And one of the reasons I think is because of the way we've configured Edmodo. It's really everything you need, hopefully, and all in one place, whether you are on your computer, your smartphone, or your tablet, you or your students can access the resources and make a good use for them. So I'm going to take kind of a detour here for just a second because I want to make sure you know about something that literally just went live last night. So this is like an FETC exclusive. So, ooh. We have just launched a new parent app within Edmodo. And so for right now, it is on the Apple iOS platform. It will be coming at some point on the Google Android platform. But if you are on the Apple iOS platform, you can now go to the App Store and your parents can download that. We're actually going to have some sessions about that in the Edmodo booth if you want to learn more. But essentially, it is an app designed for parents. So as a parent, I can go on, I can, number one, very easily register and connect my account with my son's or daughter's accounts. And then once I have done that, I have the ability to very easily see what assignments are due or coming up in Edmodo. If the teacher has sent out any kind of post or announcements to parents about maybe a field trip reminder or that kind of thing, parents can very quickly see that. And it's free, so your parents can go online and do it. One of the really cool things that we've done with it, though, right now, to sign up as a parent, I have to know the parent code, right? And, there are pros and cons to that. One of the cool things, if you download the app and a parent does not know the parent code, which is, I'd say, likely, if your son or daughter is right there beside you, there's a way where they can literally type in the ID and password that they use to sign on to Edmodo, and it will automatically link them together. So we've tried to make it really easy for parents who are obviously very busy to use that app. This is version 1 of that, and obviously as we move forward, we will do additional updates to that. But really excited about that, and so again, if you want to learn more about that and see what it looks like, come to the Edmodo booth and we'll be happy to show that to you. The other thing that I'm not going to really touch on too much in this presentation, but I want to make sure you are aware of, we also have a service that we're going to be coming out with called Edmodo Sink. And again, if this is something that you are interested in, talk to me and I'll be glad to give you more information. So essentially what Edmodo Sink is going to do is allow you to synchronize data between your district's student information system and Edmodo. Oh, you like that already. I can tell by the look on your face. So, for example, if a lot of people would like to do single sign-on with Edmodo so that the ID and password you use for Edmodo is the same that you use to access all of your other district resources, Edmodo Sink would let you do that. Another cool thing that Edmodo Sink will do is if you have all of your roster or class information in your SIS, that can push over into Edmodo and we can pre-populate a teacher's accounts. We can essentially create Edmodo groups for all of your classes for you. So you don't have to create the groups, give out the code, blah, 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 you know the drill. So it's a much more automated process. And then for any of you who are in districts with a high level of mobility, if students are moving around from school to school, once that information is updated in your SIS, it'll push over and it will automatically update over in Edmodo. So it's just a better way to keep everything in synchronization with each other. So that's called Edmodo Sink. There is a fee for us to enable that, but if that's something that you're interested in, again, we can get you more information and give you the timelines on all of that. So lots of cool stuff, and I'm just getting started. So let's talk about what else is new. So if I look at Edmodo right now, I'm going to call it kind of the core version of Edmodo. So one of the things that I can do within Edmodo, this probably is not news to any of you, is I can create groups, and then I can make assignments, I can post things, I can give those students a quiz, all of that kind of thing. Essentially, I could do a digital classroom or a digital version of my classroom. Another thing that a lot of teachers do in Edmodo right now is collaboration. There are lots of communities within Edmodo. I love going in, for example, to the math community and watching how one teacher somewhere will post a question about, I need some resources for Algebra 1, and literally within seconds, other teachers from around the world start answering. I love that capability. So there's the whole collaboration side. And then finally, there's what we call content discovery. There's lots of content within Edmodo. We partner with Khan Academy and Discover Education and the BBC and lots of really good resources. And the cool thing about Edmodo, of course, is that all of this is free. So the price is right. By the way, on content discovery, a little tip while I'm thinking about it, and I can actually show this to you whenever I actually go into Edmodo in a second. If you go to the search bar up at the top of the page, and let's say you want to find resources around a specific Common Core standard. So maybe I'm looking for like Reading for Information 3.2. I'm just going to kind of make that up. If I type that in and search on that, it will come back and list all of the resources within Edmodo that are on that standard. So it's a real cool little trick a lot of teachers don't know, but if you're trying to kind of get your head around the Common Core and how to use it in the classroom, that's kind of a neat little shortcut. Another thing that we are just announcing is a partnership with the Oxford University Press and the Oxford Dictionary. And very soon, what you'll be able to do is type in a word in that search bar, and the Oxford Dictionary definition, etc., will come up in those results. So there's lots of cool stuff around what I'm going to call content discovery, but all of this is free. And one of the key things that I want to say, and for you to walk away hearing, is that this will always be free. So I want to, if you have any worries about that, deep cleansing breath, take those away. This is always going to be free. So the things that you are doing now in Edmodo are going to stay free and available for you. What we are doing is coming out with a new set of functionality that we are calling Edmodo Premium. And as the name kind of implies there is going to be a fee associated with this. So these are going to be additional things that we can activate or turn on if you want. And in many cases, we're going to be able to do this either on a per building level or for an entire district. And I'll show you some examples of all of this in just a little bit. So with Edmodo Premium, you're still going to have all of the functionality that you have right now, but in addition to that, we're going to turn on other types of things. So for example, we have something called Open Minds. Is anybody familiar with this? Oh, this is cool. So these are practice apps. I'll try to show you an example where you can go on and actually take essentially like a video game, but you can customize it. So if, for example, if I have a list of vocabulary words that I am working on in my classroom, I used to teach second grade, so that's kind of my mentality. I could upload that list of words into Open Minds, and then the video game that I assign to my kids actually would work using that list of words. And then the cool thing about this is if I've done all of that work, I can opt to make that version of the game shareable so that then all of you could take advantage of it. So if you're working as a team, it's a way to kind of divide and conquer. So that's Open Minds. That's an example of a premium resource that's now available, and that is available now. I'll show that to you. We have a feature called Instant PLCs. You know, right now in Edmodo, I can create a group and invite other teachers to come into that group, and there are some really cool things going on around in Florida. Around that, I was just talking with the assistant superintendent from Osceola County. Is anybody from Osceola? Because that's a really long way to come. You had a really, what was your drive to get here today? Yeah, okay. So other people are going to feel really sorry for you. But you have an assistant superintendent who works with all of your elementary principals, and she wants to do kind of like book study with them, and so she created Edmodo groups and invited the principals in, and they do that. And so you can do that within Edmodo. One of the cool things that you can also do, though, and I'll try to show this to you, is if you see, based on some of the data from Snapshot, that maybe there's a certain standard that teachers are struggling with or perhaps need some professional development, I can very easily create a group and invite them all in so that we can focus some conversation on that particular standard. So that's an example of kind of a premium feature that goes above and beyond what you can do typically. Within Snapshot, how many of you are using Snapshot, by the way? A few? How many of you have no idea what Snapshot is? Okay, so we're going to correct that here in a little bit. So part of Snapshot, there are some elements of Snapshot that are free. I'll show you that. And then in addition to that, we can activate or unlock additional functionality as part of this premium service. So I'll walk you through and try to help you understand what falls into what category. And then finally, we have on the premium side, prioritized support. So if you need help from our crack team of tech support, you'll get kind of priority access to them. Now, the cool thing, and Kevin is in the back of the room. Kevin, can you wave? All the tech support people kind of report up through her. Our tech support people are pretty good already, and they're pretty responsive, any of you that have worked with them. So I'm not even sure what priority is going to actually mean because it's already pretty fast. But that'll be part of this premium service. One of the cool things, by the way, about our tech support people is lots of them, really most of them, come from a classroom background. And the thing I love about that is that I can talk teacher talk to them. So if I want to talk about, we're doing something around response to intervention in Edmodo, they will know what you mean when you say those words because they likely were doing RTI in their own classroom. Okay, so core version of Edmodo, free. Premium adds extra for a fee. Does that make sense? Okay. My mom always used to say, clear as mud, right? Clear as mud. So very quickly, and I'll put this back up. So here's kind of the breakdown between the free version of Edmodo, which is again what you're using now, and then kind of in the purple, some of the extra things that we can activate. And again, in a second, I'm going to try to actually show that to you. We were passing out some brochures that have this chart, so it may be easier to look at it on there. But let me come over here and just jump right in and actually show it to you. Do I need to do anything to... I owe this guy about 3 drinks already this morning, so by the time this presentation is done, I don't know, I might as well take you out or something at that point, guys. Exactly. So I have signed on to Edmodo, and I have signed on to a teacher, as a teacher. And again, a lot of this should be very familiar to you. These are some of the streams of some of the groups that I have. So what I'm going to do is first take you in and show you Snapshot. And so the way I get to Snapshot is over here on the side. Let me scroll back up here. Over here on the side, right below the Edmodo planner, you should see an icon called Snapshot. And if I click on that, it's actually going to open up a new browser tab and take me in. So again, right now, everything I'm showing you right now is part of the core version of Snapshot. So everything I'm going to show you right now is totally free. And it sounds like some of you are already using this already. So what Snapshot is a tool that I can use to create, I call it kind of a micro assessment on Common Core standards. Right now, the content that we have in Snapshot is math and ELA for grades 3 through 12. okay, 3 through 12. Now, again, the idea of Snapshot is not to be, like a formal benchmark or anything like that. The idea of Snapshot is more to be like a bell ringer or an exit ticket or any of those kind of things. If you're doing, it's much more of an instructional tool. And we've tried to make Snapshot very, very simple and easy to use. So let me just come over here to where it says create new snapshot and make one. And let me get rid of that group. And the first thing that I have to do is I have to say which group or small group within Edmodo I want to create and assign this snapshot for. So I'm going to just pick my Period 1 Language Arts class. And I want you to notice some things that it did right off the bat for me. Because I selected that Period 1 class, we know that that group is an ELA group, and it's made up of 6th graders. Now, how do I know that? Well, because when I created that group in Edmodo, I designated all of that in the description. So Snapshot has already brought up the Common Core standards for ELA 6th grade under the radical assumption that that's probably the standard set that I want to work with. Now, if that is not correct for some reason, I can switch and I could look at math, or if I want to choose a different grade level, I can do that. So one of the things I can do in Snapshot is I can always override the helpful recommendation it's trying to give me. But here's the other thing that Snapshot has done. Because I have given some snapshots to this group of kids before, what it's trying to say is, hey, these are the 3 ELA standards for 6th grade that this group of students has performed the poorest in. These may be standards that you want to continue to focus on. Now, how do I know that? Well, if I hover right there, for example, I can see that 9 of the 20 kids in my class are meeting that standard, but 10 of them are behind or borderline. So I can kind of hover over each of these and see that. Now, let's pretend that those are not the standards that I want. Then I can simply get rid of them. And then I can say add standards. It's going to bring up, and if you're like me and you're still trying to get your head around Common Core, maybe what I know is that I am trying to do something with nouns or pronouns. So I'm just going to type in the word nouns, and now it's going to show me, well, those are the standards that have to do with that, and I'm just going to pick this one and say that is the standard that I want to focus on. Now again, because these are meant to be very, very short cycle assessments, I may only want to assess on that one standard. Most of the teachers who tend to use this, 2 or 3 is kind of the maximum. What Snapshot is going to do for every standard that I select, it is going to go out into the item bank and it is going to pull 4 items for me per standard. So right now I have 1 standard selected, so my assessment is 4 questions long. Snapshot keeps track of which items your students have seen and which ones they haven't, and it's always going to try to assign them new items that they have not seen before. If I want to, if I click on the little eyeball right here, I can see what samples of these items look like. But then, all I do is I come down here, is I give it a name, I give it a due date, and I can go way out into the future with that. I decide if I want it to be timed or untimed. And then I can add an optional note. And then at this point, I really have a couple of options. I can preview to see what is Snapshot going to create for me. If I click on the green button, it's actually going to assign that to my students and they'll get a notification in Edmodo. Or the blue button says, well, I'm a really organized person and I want to actually do this later. So it's going to save it out on my schedule. Okay? Now, because this is a demo account, I'm not actually going to assign that one. But let me come over here to the schedule and show you. So these are all of the snapshots that I have created or assigned with my students. I can come up here and I could filter if I want to see just for a specific group or small group. But for example, if I open this one up, it's showing it's in a completed status. If I open this up, you know, I can get some information about it. I can see which standards it's focused on. I can see that I've got a whole bunch of kids who have not yet done this one, even though it was due back in December. And so because of that, I could come up here and I could extend the due date and give them more time. So that's the kind of thing that you do from the schedule. So what would happen is my students would get a notification that they have this. They would go on. They can either take these, you know, via the web through a browser, or if you're using the Edmodo app, either on a smartphone or a tablet, they can actually take these that way. There's a teacher who is down in our booth from Palm Beach County, and she actually assigns these a lot as homework. And one of the things that she has noticed is even her kids, as they are on the way home, they will actually get on their parents' phone and actually do these as they're in the car on the way home sometimes. And again, because they're designed to be very short, usually by the time they get home, they're done. Now, me as a teacher, when I assign one of these, I get instant results. And that's really the idea of this, is so that on the fly, at the point of time of instruction, I can, you know, look at that data and say, hey, maybe I need to kind of adjust a little bit. So let me come over here and show you some of the reports. Now again, just to sound like a broken record, everything I'm showing you right now, this is all free. This is just part of core Edmodo. So feel free to go start using this whenever you get home from the conference. Let me come up here. I'm going to put it on my 5th grade class, and I am going to pick math. And I just want to look at some of the data that I have available. So let me scroll down here. So here we go. So I kind of we call this the focus report. I think of this as kind of, this is the USA Today version of what is going on with this group of kids. It's kind of the big picture, 30,000-foot view. So I can see of the 13 kids in my class. Now, first of all, that tells you this is a demo account right there, because I don't know what dream world only has 13 kids. Does anybody have 13 kids in their class? Did you really? Oh, and she even admitted it in public. Wow, you're brave. You are a brave woman. So of my, so you can, this is your class. Of your 13 kids, if I hover, I can see that none of them are meeting at least 90% of the standards that I have assigned to them through Snapshot. I want that orange bar to be green, and I want it to go all the way across. Green is good in Snapshot. I said green, not greed, by the way. On the other side, the blue, that's trying to tell me from a pacing point of view how many of the standards I have covered. And so again, depending on point in time in the year, you know, obviously if this was the beginning of the year, very little of that would be blue and it would be all the way over there. It's just trying to help me gauge how I am doing in terms of pacing. But here's the other cool thing that it does. If I scroll down a little bit, it's trying to tell me, again, because you don't necessarily have time to sift through all of the data. So we're trying to help you do that a little bit. So it's saying, based on the snapshots for 5th grade math that you have given so far, these are the 3 standards that are probably candidates for you to reteach, because these are the ones your students are performing the lowest in. So if I hover, I call these donuts because I relate everything to food. So if I look at that first one, it is a geometry standard, and if I kind of hover there, it actually tells me which students. I don't have anybody who's meeting that. I have 1 student borderline and a couple behind, and a whole bunch who have not even done anything on that standard. If I look at this one, it's another geometry standard, and then this one I think has to do with volume on measurement. So it's trying to just tell me, here's what's going on. So I've got some kids who are behind or borderline in each one of these. If I scroll down even more, we're trying to help you kind of with a, okay, now what do I do question. I know I've got some kids struggling in geometry. What do I do? So here's what we're saying. We're suggesting for each one of these standards, here are instructional resources within Edmodo that I could assign to these kids. Okay? So I can scroll through here and find the one that I want. If I just click on one of them, I can preview it. But let me just go back to the very first one. Let's pretend that that is the one that I want to look at. I previewed it. I like it. So if I come over here and I click on send, it is now going to send that as an assignment to the students who are behind or borderline on that standard. And that becomes an assignment for them to do in Edmodo. Now, Edmodo is a social platform. And so we are harnessing the intelligence of our social network with these recommendations. And here's what I mean by that. So, let's say I'm going to pick on you. So let's say this is your class and you saw that geometry standard. You assigned that activity to your kids. They did it. And then you went back and reassessed them on that same standard, and you noticed that the second time they actually did better. So we kind of moved the needle a little bit. So good, right? That's what you want. Let's say in her classroom, exact same thing happens. She assigns that exact same activity. Her kids do better. And let's say that is the case for all of you. We note that across the network. And so my point is, the thing that pops up first is going to be the resource that the social network is saying is the most effective for the most teachers and students across the country. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like when you use Google and you do a Google search and the things that pop up first are the things that tend to be the more popular things. Same idea. We're trying to kind of leverage to help you be more effective. So with the free version of Snapshot, you're going to have access to a list of resources there that you can assign to your kids. With the premium version, you're going to have all of that, plus we're going to give you access to an additional library of more activities. So that's one of the differences between core and premium. Does that make sense? Okay. But again, you could go start using that right now. So that's the focus report. Let me scroll up here. And I'm going to click on students. And I've got my list of students there. So I can look at any one of these. I'm still on 5th grade math. And so I can see, for example, if I look at Jamie here for operations and algebraic thinking, I've got one area red, which means he is behind. one area that's yellow, that means he's borderline, and then one area that's kind of gray, which means I really haven't done anything. So if I click on that red one, now it's actually going to show me the items that Jamie actually did. And so I can begin to do some item analysis here. So I can see, for example, this was what Jamie selected versus this is what the correct response was. I can look at the next one. I can look at the next one, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? Awesome. He thinks it's awesome. The other thing that I can do, if I want to kind of drill down a little bit more on Jamie, I can click on his name, and that's going to pop up a report that, again, shows more information for Jamie. Now, here is another example of the difference between the free version and the premium version. So first of all, you're going to notice up here at the top, I can print or export some of this data about Jamie. So if any of you are doing like data notebooks or that kind of thing, that functionality to export that data out, that's part of the premium package. If I want to begin to see, hopefully, growth over time, but maybe it's change over time, I can see on that graph where the different assignments, I can see what Jamie is doing. Again, this is for math, because that's what I've got this filtered on. That ability to see information over time is, again, part of the premium version. The free version shows you the most current snapshot of what's going on with your class. The premium versions enables the ability for you to see information over time on those students. So this is under students, and then very quickly, let me go to standards. And now I'm going to look at this information more from a standards point of view. I've still got it on the same 5th grade math class. So again, I can look for any of these categories. Right off the bat, if I just kind of look right there, I can see under operations and algebraic thinking, I've got a little bit of green, I've got a lot more red, and I've got some gray. So just visually, I can look at that, and that tells me I've got some work to do on that set of standards. But then if I want to come over here, just like before, I can look and see the specifics for these. So this has to do with expressions and how you evaluate them. Let me get this on the screen a little bit better. And again, there you see at the bottom there, showing me the change over time. So I've got that information there as well. Okay. Let me drop out of there. If I am an administrator, so I'm just going to switch over to the administrative side, and I'm going to do this very quickly. On the premium side, we can turn on additional reports within Snapshot for either a building level administrator or a district level administrator. And so these are the types of things that they are able to see. So I can see over time, right now I've got this on ELA for this school year. I can see over time how we are doing compared to how other districts in my state are doing. So for example, if you're here in Florida and you're an administrator, this is going to give you some comparison of how your building or district is doing compared to your peers across the rest of the state of Florida. Those are other Edmodo users, by the way. I can see, here are the standards with the most activity, either within my building or my district. I can see, again, depending on what level I'm at, where I'm really doing well and where maybe we've got some room for improvement. So I can see Lincoln Middle School, for example, is probably an area we need to maybe focus on in terms of ELA. And then here's kind of that instant PLC thing that I was talking about before. So I see, for example, here that I've got a lot of my 9th and 10th grade teachers working on standards around literature. And, you know, there's some progress here, but there's not very much green there. So this may be a place where I want to kind of direct some additional professional development or coach them. So just by clicking on this Create PLC button, I can invite all of those teachers into a new Edmodo group, and now I've got a place where I can really target instruction and get them to network with each other. The cool thing about this is if this is at a district level, then I'm beginning to connect teachers across buildings. So if you've got maybe some buildings that are doing some really good things and you want to kind of, I call it cross-pollinating a little bit, this is going to give you a real quick and easy way to do that. There are lots of other ways I can look at this data. I'm not going to show you all of them because of time, but I do want to show you, this is kind of a cool one, where we are using Google Map technology. So for example, if you're at the district level, this is going to show you your county, for example, and plot out all of your schools and show you data on how they are doing. And a lot of times, especially if you have like feeder patterns, this really kind of shows you some geographic trends in your data that may not be apparent if you're just looking like at a bar graph. So we're just trying to give you a different view there. Okay, let me switch back and I'm going to show you the Open Minds practice apps real quick, and then I'm going to try to save some time for questions here. So if I have activated the premium features, right below Snapshot, I'm going to have another icon for Open Minds. Okay, I show you this full disclosure. Now you want to talk about pressure. My boss, the guy I report to, is back over there in the corner, and he's one of the guys that developed what I'm just about to show you. So he knows this forwards and backwards. He's like the expert on this. And so I get the pleasure of presenting this to you in front of him, where I know he's going to critique like every single thing I say in terms of, no, it really doesn't do that, or so no pressure. Okay, so I've launched into Open Minds. You can see it came up in a new tab here. And so again, here's the idea of this. These are practice apps, these video game activities that I can assign to my students. One of the things I want you to notice, if I come up over here to groups, all of your Edmodo groups that you've established, it pulls over automatically. So I can assign any of these based on those groups that I have set up. So let me go back over here. And I'm just going to quickly show you one of these. I'm going to pick this one on spelling. There are 8 items in it. It's for grade 3. I think I can probably handle that in front of a crowd. So let me actually go in. I can preview this. I can actually see, in this case, the words that it's using. And here is the recommended video game that goes with this. If I wanted to, I could assign this to my kids. But let me just take you in and I'm going to play this game. I am really awful at these games, so let me just say that right now. And there's nothing more fun than playing a video game in front of lots and lots of people. Okay. So I have to try to match the pairs to make a word. So let me get one right so you can see. So I believe if I take this plus this is probably something a lot of you had this morning. Let's see. Yeah, got it right. So now let me get one wrong so you can see, or hopefully get one wrong. So I believe if I take this and pair it with this, no, that wasn't right. So I believe if I take this and pair it with this, now I got that one right. And now, thanks to the process of elimination, I bet that becomes remain, and we're done. So that was a very quick and simple example of that. I'm going to get some feedback. and I can play the game again. You as a teacher can look at reports to see how your students are doing on this, but now that you kind of get the idea for how these games work, let me go back and show you what I can do. It helps if I actually click. Exactly. So what I can do, there we go. So I could create a new one of these, and I first kind of say, well, what do I want to do? Is it multiple choice? Is it vocabulary, ordering? You know, if I want to see what these look like, I can kind of hover to see examples. So I will do just multiple choice. I'm going to create one. So now it's going to bring up a form where I actually can input my multiple choice answers, or if I have got all of this laid out in a spreadsheet and where the different columns or the different answers, I can just import all of this in and it will create that for me. The nice thing again is once I've got this done and I've created my version of the game, then I have the option whether I want to keep that just for me or if I want to share that out with other teachers. So again, if you're in a teaming situation and one of your colleagues makes some of these, they can opt to share those with you as well. Okay, let me stop there and see if there are questions. Yes, ma'am. You know, now I was a second grade teacher, so I have a very biased opinion on this. They are looking at K through 2. I think if we do anything around adding more content in for Snapshot, K through 2 will likely be the next thing, and then probably after that would be the next generation science standards. But I don't have a timeline on any of that right now, which as a second grade teacher kind of breaks my heart a little bit. But right now it's 3 through 12. Open minds, though, this stuff you can use at all grade levels. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So if you have a kid in a remediation class with another teacher and then you teach them in regular math, do you see what they did?
If it depends on how your groups have been set up in Edmodo. If you have been designated in that other class as a co-teacher of the Edmodo group, then yes, you would be able to see that data. Otherwise, it's only going to show you the data based on the groups that you have access to, and some of that's just for security reasons. Well, that's that sync service, which yeah, if you had that going, then you could when you pull all that data in, you could say that you are a co-teacher of that other group, and then yeah. No. The grade book that we have in Edmodo has the capability for you to export out and then put it into a grade book. So if you have grades in Edmodo, but we don't really we don't go the other way. We don't pull grades into Edmodo.
No, take from Edmodo with the sync option.
Not right now. The two big things that sync does is really around just user management so that you can have single sign-on, and then group management if you want to kind of automate the management of your rosters and that kind of thing. That's really the focus of it for right now. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, duh. I'll start repeating the questions. That'll be helpful.
So, since the premium has a cost,
Uh-huh.
if your district is the one that assigns you your Edmodo account, essentially, will you guys be talking to the different districts to offer this? Because it kind of doesn't, as an individual teacher, you can't really
Right.
get those benefits.
Right.
So the company Edmodo will be talking to the different.
I am willing to talk to any district that wants to talk about this. I will tell you though, for example, we do, for example, over in Volusia County, Port Orange Elementary, they went ahead and bought the premium just for their school, and we turned it on just for them. The district is still kind of looking at it more broadly than that. If any of you are in Volusia, go talk to Port Orange. So, you know, depending on how purchasing is done in your district, you may or may not be able to do that.
Could you turn it on just for one school? Even
Yes,
if the-
absolutely.
if you're going through your county that-
Yeah, we do that all the time. We do that all the time. And then if we do that, she's actually, can we turn it on for just one school? If we do that, then people at the district level would also see all of the additional reports for your building as well. So they would begin to see the other stuff, that would become available. Yes? Absolutely. She's asking about piling, yes. And if that's something you're interested in, talk to me and we can see what's possible. Yes? Are the open minds, is it flash? I think it's HTML5, isn't it? Or is it, it's HTML5, so it's not flash-based. That's why it's good to have him in the room. Yes?
Talking about new things that are coming, one thing that gets asked about a lot in my school is in the progress sections. I don't work my way out.
No.
In the progress section, one of the things that drives my teachers crazy is the fact that it's cumulative across the entire year, and they really get frustrated when we get into the second quarter and the third
Right.
quarter because they can't break down by quarter.
Yes.
That's something that we're looking at.
Yeah, that is feedback that we have heard. I don't know where on the development roadmap that is. She's asking about in the grade book, essentially being able to kind of further organize that. It's an area that they are looking at, but I don't have a timeline for when we might do anything more in that area. Yes. Oh. Yeah. That's kind of the workaround. That's the workaround. Yeah. Uh-huh. You know what? It's something that we are looking at. It's not available right now today, but yeah, because we have heard that feedback too, that talking about piloting, it might just be a couple of teachers that want to try some. So I think the best I can say on that is stay tuned, because I think we'll have some announcements even before this spring semester's over about that very thing. Okay, one more, and then I think we've got to turn over the room. So I'm going to go over to this side. I love the color, by the way, you're wearing.
If I use the snapshot under the bell ring,
Uh-huh.
you can randomly generate 4 questions. If I will do 4 different questions for my second period and my block the next day.
Yes and no. It depends. A lot of that depends on you and how sophisticated you get with how you're using Snapshot. And here's what I mean by that. If you are assigning snapshots both to entire groups and small groups, it's really going to begin to mix up, what students see. So some of that kind of depends on you. At the very least, what Snapshot is going to do is it's going to randomize the order that the items are shown in. One of the things we're playing around with Snapshot, it doesn't do this right now, but is to make it more adaptive. And so that would really kind of take care of, because based on what I do individually, each test would then begin to shift a little bit. So those are some things we're playing around with. But right now, it's going to, it's going to go out and look at what each of your students have been exposed to and then make the assignment based on that. Good things. Thank you for your time. I will stick around for a little bit, and again, come and hunt me down in the Edmodo booth and enjoy the rest of your conference, and enjoy the warm weather for those of you who are from somewhere kind of chilly. Thank you.